How's it going, everyone? It's Avi from Marcel. Today is February 27, 2021, and we are approaching the month of March within only 48 hours. And you might be wondering, will we see more snow this March? Will it be warmer than average this March? Well, I'll answer those questions in a more detailed fashion in this video. You could already tell by the map probably, but I'll go into more detail on why this will happen and what could potentially change how much snow or how warm it is this winter. But this March. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by taking a look at this map. So this is my March forecast, and you see that I'm predicting mainly a warm and dry winter for the East Coast, very warm and moist for the Midwest, warm and dry towards the Southwest, and then cool and dry mostly throughout the West Coast of the United States. And let's look at the reasons why, and could this forecast potentially change? So let's first look at what pattern we are currently experiencing, which is a La Nina. And with a La Nina, this is the typical weather pattern you should experience this winter for a lot of you guys. And you see that during La Nina, you see that it's very warm towards the southeast, and not only warm, but it's dry for the most part, especially extending towards Florida and throughout the West Coast, which gives me the impression that for most of the March, it's going to be relatively dry throughout the southern United States in general, extending from California all the way to Florida, pretty much the Interstate 10 corridor, which pretty much separates the Mexico and United States border, as well as the Gulf of Mexico from the land of the United States. So if a La Nina were to occur this March, then you should mainly expect more dry conditions further southward, and then throughout the northern United States, it's expected to be much cooler during a La Nina because the polar jet stream moves straight through your area in the Northwest Pacific, unlike El Nino, where the jet stream is well far to the north of you guys. And since there's such a big jet stream dip, there's a lot of troughs that moves through this area, and with troughs come a lot of clouds, and those clouds block the shortwave radiation of the sun to give the ground energy to work with to heat up the Earth's surface. So as a result, it's expected to be cooler than average throughout the Northwest Pacific if the La Nina were to occur. And if we take a look at the current sea surface temperatures in the Nino 3.4 region, which is the region in the Eastern Pacific where it's definitely a huge factor when determining whether or not you'll receive an El Nino, La Nina, or neutral season. And you see pretty much for the past several months, we've been in a La Nina. So March is only around 2 days away, and it's unlikely that it's pretty much highly uncertain that this La Nina pattern will completely change by the time we hit March. Although we still have yet to see whether or not February is still the sea surface temperatures in February are still as cold as January. It's unlikely that we're gonna see any massive changes in the sea surface temperatures within only a 1 to 2 month period. And you could probably tell by this chart where you see the temperatures don't really change that much between month and month. It isn't like the air temperature where it quickly changes between the summer and the winter. For a La Nina or for the sea surface, it's different because obviously water cools and warms up a lot slower than the air temperature. So as a result, we see very slow changes in the pattern patterns. So as a result, a La Nina is pretty much the most likely scenario headed into March, which is the reason why you should expect mainly around La Nina conditions. I'll say there could maybe be that possibility that maybe it does warm up, the sea surface temperatures do warm up rapidly, and we do see a neutral pattern rather than a La Nina pattern headed into March. But even then, a neutral pattern isn't that much different from, let's say, a La Nina pattern. So I'd say for the most part throughout the South, expect drier conditions and warmer conditions, and also more moist conditions throughout the Midwest and the Ohio River Valley, especially where that jet stream dips down far south enough to bring a lot of troughs towards the Midwest, which is the reason why I'm currently expecting a more warm and moist winter for a lot of the Midwest. And that also increases the chance of severe weather as well, thanks to that jet stream dip induced by this La Nina pattern. And then more wet right around Northwest Pacific as well, because that Pacific jet stream moves through your area. And it's going to be primarily dry throughout the southern United States, because there's going to be a lack of a subtropical jet moving through that area, which will make it more dry this March than you typically see. But there are also other factors we need to keep in mind when making this March forecast, and it's the Arctic Oscillation. And if you don't know what that is, the Arctic Oscillation is pretty much it's pretty much keeps track of sort of the strength of a trough and a ridge that's pretty much centered over the northern Atlantic. When the ridge and the low pressure system are stronger than usual, then that means that the pressure gradient is stronger, which increases the winds of the jet stream. And since the winds increase in the jet stream from a westerly to easterly direction, that diverts the cold air in the United States from into an easterly to westerly direction, rather than northerly to southerly direction, which would happen when the jet stream winds are very weak. And however, in a negative Arctic oscillation, that's when the low pressure system in the northern Atlantic and the ridge are much weaker than usual, which means that the jet stream winds are weaker, and that gives the cold air closer to Canada a little bit more. It makes it easier for that cold air in Canada to move further southward to the United States, because we don't have these strong winds completely pushing it towards the east, like we do during a positive Arctic oscillation. And you see, for the past several months, throughout a lot of the heart of winter, pretty much extending from December all the way to middle of February, we've been in a negative Arctic oscillation. And it's not surprising to see, because this winter has been rough for a lot of you guys throughout the United States, especially the Midwest and the Northeast, where we just been seeing almost a snowstorm every week, it feels like, especially closer to February. However, past the middle February point, I noticed that we're now in a positive Arctic oscillation, and it's been rising over the past several days. And you could probably tell by this graph that usually when we're either in a negative Arctic oscillation or a positive Arctic oscillation, the pattern lasts for a couple months. It's not like the example I gave. It's not like there's a different pattern every day, where one day you might be in positive Arctic oscillation and then another day you're in the negative Arctic oscillation. The Arctic oscillation pattern usually lasts for several months on whichever spectrum it's located, or whichever threshold it's located at. And you could probably tell, because since early December all the way to middle February, we've been in negative Arctic oscillation, and there hasn't been one time where it rose above into the positive Arctic oscillation threshold. And even going before the early December, we see that for over a month, most of the United States was in a positive Arctic oscillation, which meant that there were warmer temperatures than average throughout November and a lot less jet stream dips. And what a negative Arctic oscillation means is that it's typically a lot colder in the United States. It increases the possibility of snowstorms, and it also really increases the chance of severe weather, thanks to the stronger unstable air that's okay in the United States. It's a negative Arctic oscillation. But during a positive, since the jet stream dips are a lot less frequent, then that means that there's less of a chance of there's a lower chance of snowstorms. There's a lower chance of severe weather with less unstable air in the United States. And overall, it's more or less expected to be warmer and typically drier during a positive Arctic oscillation. And based off what we've been seeing, we're in a positive Arctic oscillation, which would mean that this March you should experience for most of the United States warmer than average temperatures, as well as less jet stream dips and maybe less severe weather. However, I wouldn't put too much weight on the Arctic oscillation, especially since we're in a La Nina, which typically is the factor that is stronger and has more weight when making a winter forecast for the United States. So I'd still expect it to be mainly more moist than average throughout the Midwest, and also a little bit more dry throughout the Southeast, and warm as well. And despite the positive Arctic oscillation, I do expect it to also be cooler throughout the Northwest Pacific because, again, the La Nina pattern holds a little bit more weight than what the Arctic oscillation pattern is. However, the Arctic oscillation pattern also has its merit and its weight with it as well, so we can't disregard it completely either. And based off of the forecast from the computer models over the next 2 weeks, you see that for the most part the forecast models are predicting the United States to stay in a positive Arctic oscillation, which would mean warmer temperatures and less jet stream dips throughout the United States this March, which is currently forecasted based off the combination of the La Nina and it coinciding with the Arctic oscillation, bringing very warm temperatures throughout the United States. So as a result, I do expect it to be a little bit warmer for the most part throughout the United States in March because of that. Not only the La Nina bringing warmer and drier conditions throughout the southern United States, but also that positive Arctic oscillation that's going to bring less jet stream dips, which would mean a more warmer and less moist United States in general and less snowstorms overall. So as a result, I do expect it to be warmer for most of the United States. The only exception is the West Coast, where again that La Nina will bring cooler than average temperatures throughout the Northwest Pacific and maybe the Southwest Pacific as well. So keep that in mind. And also we also have to take a look at the CFS computer model, which actually synthesizes data and jumps to conclusions regarding the climate forecasted for this March. And you see, if we take a look at the 2-meter temperature anomaly for a lot of the United States, you see that for the most part, most of the United States this March is forecasted to be well above average when it comes to temperatures, especially further up northward. So definitely throughout the United States, especially the eastern half, you should prepare for a more warmer than usual March because based off of what the computer models are saying. Well, the CFS model, which measures climate, and this is based off of historical data between 1984 and 2009, which is a lot of years. And all computer models make forecasts based off of historical data. They compare it to situations in the past that were very similar to the one we're seeing right now and make a conclusion based on what type of climate we'll see in the future, at least for and in this case for March. And it's forecasting much warmer than average March for a lot of you guys, so I'd take it definitely seriously, and I'd say there's a less likely chance of a blockbuster snowstorm as a result of this, even though I won't discount the possibility of a snowstorm either, because although it might be warmer than average, like let's say 28 days out of the 30 days in March, there could be that 2 days, those anomalous 2 days that bring a major blockbuster snowstorm to a lot of the East Coast. So do not take it as, oh, there's going to be like 80-degree weather for all 30 days, because there still definitely could be those chances of maybe cooler than average temperatures and maybe some snow in some areas. But for the most part, I'd say more than around 2/3 or more of the time, expect it to be warmer than average throughout the United States, but take it with a grain of salt as well, because forecasting climatology is forecasting the climate is still uncertain, as just like how we forecast short-term and long-term forecasts. So I'd definitely at least take it with a grain of salt, but more likely than not, expect a warmer spring and March overall for a lot of United States. And then you see for the western portion of the United States, cooler than the average temperatures are currently forecasted as a result of a strong La Nina that's going to bring the jet stream towards the Northwest Pacific and bring a lot of troughs that will limit the chance of shortwave radiation from the sun from hitting on the earth, which will cool down temperatures. So as a result, expect a cooler than average March throughout the Pacific west coast pretty much of the United States. Now let's move on to a precipitation forecast, and it's very similar to what what a La Nina should typically be like, where we do see more moist conditions than usual throughout the Ohio River Valley and the Midwest, while we do see drier than average conditions throughout the southern United States for the most part, where it's expected to be much drier than usual for Florida, the Gulf Coast, and a lot of the southwestern United States. And this even extends to the Northeast, especially closer to the coast, where you guys are expected to have a drier March than usual. So keep this in mind, that for a lot of you guys hoping for next blockbuster snowstorm, then while the cold air might not be with you guys in the Midwest, there certainly will be more than enough moisture forecasted for you guys for this March. So there could be that chance that you might experience another snowstorm before the year is all said and done, although we're forecast to receive much warmer than average temperatures for this year in March. So in terms of my total forecast, you see that for a lot of United States, again, I'm expecting warmer and drier conditions throughout the West Coast, cool and moist throughout the Northwest Pacific, cool and dry throughout the Southwest Coast, and a warm and dry for a lot of East Coast, and above average severe weather, because during a La Nina, severe weather is more common in the Midwest. It's more frequent, so I expect above average severe weather throughout the Midwest, so you guys need to keep that in mind. And also, since it's going to be more moist, it increases chances of severe weather, as severe weather and very moist conditions and very warm conditions as well pretty much go hand in hand in bringing severe weather to the United States. So keep that in mind throughout the Midwest, and take this with a grain of salt. Don't take this as 100% truth, but I'd say more likely than not, you should expect these types of conditions for this spring throughout the United States. But yeah, guys, and in terms of how much snow should you forecast for this winter, for this spring, or March, I should say more specifically, I'd say for most likely for most of the United States, a snowstorm is less likely, because it's expected to be much warmer for pretty much over 75% of the United States, with the exceptions being the West Coast. So I'd say for the most part, you're less likely to receive another blockbuster snowstorm from this. There's still that chance, I won't rule it out, but more likely than not, I wouldn't expect much more snow for this March for a lot of the United States. So yeah, guys, I guess that's it for this video. I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather related content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather related content. I hope you guys have a good day.